Welcome to the Go Find Nervous Show, the show where we find out at least 3 things that made our guests nervous on their journey and how they overcame them. I'm your host, Jake Bolig. Real quick before I tell you about our guest, I want to let you know if you would like a free copy of the booklet that started this whole thing, look in the description. There's going to be a link in the description. You can find a way to get a free copy of this book. And if you're watching on your phone, if you would turn your phone from horizontal to vertical, click the like and subscribe button. It really helps us out. So I appreciate that. Now let's talk about our guest that I have today. Really stoked to talk with this gentleman. He was introduced to me by a mutual friend. He's an author, executive coach, podcaster. He's a 100-mile marathoner or ultra marathoner, I guess you would call it. Ultra runner, not marathoner, 100-mile ultra runner. And he's got a pretty cool story. So Gary Stotler is here with me today. Gary, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Man, I was introduced to you by a mutual friend, Christina Bishop. She was on the show. She's a great person. She said, man, you got to hear this guy's story. You got to talk to this guy. And then I did some research. I know exactly what she was talking about. For the people listening, what happened before your son's 4th birthday, if you could share that story?
Yeah, absolutely. Man, you asked that question and I get goosebumps and I'm probably going to tear up. 4 days before my son's 4th birthday, I stepped on the scale at 400 pounds, 397 pounds, and it scared the daylights out of me. I was 28 years old and I knew I was on fast track to a heart attack by the time I was 35. And I was scared. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to do it. I walked out of the bathroom and I told my wife at the time, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I got to do something because I cannot live my life this way. And the only logical thing that I could do is step out my door and walk around the block. So that's what I did. I took a step outdoors. I went around 1 block. Next day I went around a block. Next day I went around a block, and I just kept moving forward. And thankfully, 8 years later, I haven't stopped moving forward.
Man, that's fantastic. So you just stepped out, started moving. I hear a lot of different things in there. So how long did it take you from the time you stepped out that first time until where you were like, okay, I'm making some headway here, like this, or did you make a conscious decision from this moment on, things are changing and I'm never going back?
I made a decision that I don't know what's going to happen, but I am never, ever, ever going to feel like this again. And it was the day that turned my life around. I started moving. I retaught myself how to eat, how much to eat, what types of food to eat. It took me a month to be able to walk a mile a day, and it took me a year. I had lost 110 pounds. At the end of the second year, I had lost somewhere around 170 pounds and was on my way to my first marathon. And then 4 years to the week is when I finished my first 100-mile race. And since then, I've finished 300-mile races. And just this past summer, I taught myself how to ride a mountain bike. So I rode a 100-mile mountain bike through the Leadville 100, highest mountain bike race in the country. And I made that decision. I'm like, I'm never going to feel like this again. And to this day, I've never felt the weight of 400 pounds holding me down.
Man, and probably not the mental weight either, right? Like
the mental weight was actually harder than the physical weight, if I'm being completely truthful. I lost about 200 pounds in about 2.5 years, and I'm still dealing with the fallout of the mental, the emotional stuff, because nobody gets to be 400 pounds because everything's going right in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like every pound that I shed, every mile that I went, I quit drinking almost 5 years ago, which was a huge thing because I had went from eating as my coping mechanism to walking to running to drinking to running and drinking. Mm-hmm. To one day I realized I drove my car home. I woke up on a Saturday morning, realized I drove my car home drunk, and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, dude, you're too good for this. 7 days, no drinking. 7 more days, no drinking. On day 30, I woke up and I was like, I don't ever need this again. And that's actually when the real work started. That was when my journaling kicked in. That was when all of the things that I had been diligently working on really started to kick in. And that was the day that I actually started to turn my mental and emotional self around to become who I am today.
Yeah. And then so that I'm making assumptions here, but is studying the mind so much and the mental leaps that you had to make and physical leaps, is that what drove you into the coaching space in that, or was that something you had always wanted to do previous and you just, didn't feel up to it?
That's a great question. The only reason that I became a coach is because one day somebody called me like, "Hey, I want to do what you've done," and so I
Mm,
started working with them. And somebody else has called me up and they're like, "Hey, I want to do what you've done." It's like, okay. And then what happened was everybody started getting like they started catching up, and I was like, I have to read faster. I have to I have to do more. And so I had to challenge myself to get better in order to
mhm,
be able to keep up with the people that were calling me. And progressively, thankfully, I've been able to continue growing as fast as I have. And the more intelligent that I get, the more information that I can pick up, the more people that I can interact with, the
mhm.
more stories I get to hear. It's literally leveled me up from somebody that, somebody calls me to run a marathon to somebody calls me to change their entire life and put themselves on a different track. So it was kind of an accident, but also something I'm extremely grateful for.
Yeah. Do you feel a sense of burden? This is kind of off topic a little bit, but it's something that I think I can relate to a little bit. Do you, after you created that value for these people, did you feel almost a burden to deliver and constantly deliver? Have you ever felt burdened by it, or has it always been a source of energy for you? You know, when you start getting 5 people, there's a difference between 5 people and then 50 people. Now, if 50 people hit you, and you're like, hold on, I really want to help everybody, but there's some kind of, you know what I mean, where there's a burden almost, and it's not that you don't want to help them, but it's like, how do I help all these people without driving myself crazy? Have you ever felt that?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
So the yes piece, there was a time where you have so much coming at you at one time,
Yeah.
and what I learned was I can only handle so much at a time, and
Hmm.
that was part of my personal growth. Is look, I've got 100% in my emotional energy battery. I have to give a certain amount to me, and then I can give a certain amount to other people. So that's one reason that I only work with two handfuls worth of clients at a time. I don't do these 50 100 person groups.
Mm.
I have 10 to 15 people at one time that I work with so that they can have my full undivided attention.
Hmm.
And then I work 3 days a week and
Hmm.
I nail it. I mean, I'm busy from sun up to sundown, and then
Hmm.
it takes me 4 days to make sure that I can go in and do my reading, I can do my journaling, I can catch up, if you will, to fill myself up to then be able to give again. And
Right.
so I that's something that I've learned over the years is I hate to use this term batch process, but I can fill myself up and then give it away, fill myself up and give it away, kind of like a
Hmm.
lithium battery that's rechargeable. I can give it away, but then you got to refill it because once you get to zero, you're done, you're tapped. And
Yeah.
I can feel that coming now, so I know when to step away. But yeah, I understand the burden question, and that was something I had to learn real early in my coaching career: is how much can I give to others, and then
Hmm.
how much do I need to be able to sustain my life, my health, my mental well-being.
Right, right. Yeah, I think a lot of people deal with that in a lot of different areas today as well. You know, like whether it be from the mom that feels like they have to do 50 different sports and 50 different events and all that stuff. It's like, wait, we only have so much to give. So, what do you do to fill yourself back up? I know you said journaling, stuff like that. Is it the intense activity? Is it the running? Is it the reading, or is it just a combination of all of that?
So I do three things every single day, no matter
Okay.
what. I do something to challenge myself mentally, do something to challenge myself emotionally, and do something to challenge myself physically.
Mm,
And what that looks like these days is much different than my days of like major ultra running. If I can get out and take a 20-minute walk,
hmm.
that usually gets me to an hour of fresh air, sunshine, whatever that might be. But I have to have 20 minutes of intentional fresh air walking. I don't care if it's 20 below. I don't care if it's 120 above. I got to be outside. I need that fresh air. So that takes care of the physical piece. And I
Hmm.
usually do much more than that, but I have to do that minimum. The mental piece, I read every single day, and or I talk to strangers. And the
Mm,
strangers piece, that's something that I've done even through COVID. I would have an intentional conversation with a stranger every single day. I traveled 60,000 miles while the world was shut down. And every single day I was able to hit that stranger. But what that taught me was we're all so unique and so different, and then we're all so the same. And so that has been able to give me a different light on the world and people in general. And since people is my business, it's been super fulfilling for me and also very challenging and stimulating. And then emotionally, I do one of three things: I either laugh my tail off, I cry my eyes out, or I go to the top of a mountain and I just scream and yell, not at anybody, just in general. But what I got to do is I just have to that emotional muscle one way or the other. Because if I go too many days without crying, or too many days without laughing, or too many days without yelling, I literally feel the weight just start falling on top of me. So I got to release it. I got to get rid of it. And what that does is it keeps that energy flowing, and motion creates emotion, and emotion creates motion. And
Mm-hmm.
so I keep myself moving emotionally every single day.
Man, that's fantastic. I think that's something that I do. I don't think a lot of people do this, and I'm glad you brought this up. And I, because it sounds a little bit out there when you talk about it, but the laugh or the cry uh, idea that you bring up, I'll do the same thing where I have there's certain videos that I can go to that will take me to a place, because I want to feel like, when I want to feel sad, I want to feel the most sad, like not stay there. I just want to feel that emotion, or like you said, laugh. I want to feel the most, or like I'll watch talent shows where people win like the golden buzzer or something. I want that full emotion, and I'll use music or whatever to take me to that spot. And people are like, why would you take yourself to that spot? But like you said, because you feel that whole range, and it does something to your body. I don't know. I've never done a study on it, or I don't know if you know a study, but it definitely does something to you.
Here's the answer to why that works. So
Okay.
emotions are like a pendulum, and the same walls that keep out sadness also keep out happiness. And
Mm.
so if you've ever been to a funeral, people are laughing at a funeral. And if you walked in and you're like, why the heck would somebody laugh at a funeral? Well, what happens is sadness is really hard
Yeah.
and laughter is really easy. So what we do is we laugh in order to break that wall, so
Mm.
that that pendulum can swing back, and then we can start feeling that sadness. It's those people that live in that numb area, that boring comfort zone of, I don't really want to feel anything bad.
Right.
You're never going to get to feel anything super joyful either. So that's the importance for me of taking myself, letting that pendulum swing. If I need to cry my eyes out, you better believe I'm going to bawl like a 5-year-old. And then I'm going to be standing on top of a mountain. I'm going to be sitting at the beach, and I'm just going to be as joyous as you can possibly be, because I'm going to let myself feel the hard stuff, because I really want to feel the joyful stuff.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. So, I imagine you coach. When you do coaching, is it executive coaching, or what exact kind of coaching do you do?
So I do executive coaching, and I work with people in business, fitness, and life in general. So we
Okay,
work
gotcha.
on emotional, we work on mental, and we work on physical all together.
I see. Okay, fantastic. And then, so you got into that. Now, how did you get into the writing? Because you have books, right? Like,
I I
I've seen
have I
these.
have
I've
a
seen.
couple books. Yep, I've
Yeah.
got one on journaling, one on how to get started, and 3 poetry books. So I started writing way back in 2014, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just started writing one day, and it started with a pen pal all the way across the country. Next thing you know, I was writing on my computer. I was putting together a weekly blog, and then I started journaling, just longhand journaling.
Mhm,
And what I had found out was that was how I was processing a lot of these emotions. I had no idea what I was doing. I just
mhm,
knew that I had to get this stuff out of my head and into reality. And so I accidentally started writing, because I failed English. My girlfriend in high school did all my homework in English. And so I was
love it. Love
terrible.
it.
And then just forced repetition, I built that muscle, built that muscle, built that muscle. The people that I read are extremely wonderful writers. James Allen, early 1900s, Napoleon Hill, early 1900s. All of these people I've just listened to, and I've read so much that I just kind of picked up their style of writing, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of taken me to where I am today. So now I journal every day, and it's just been part of my mental, physical health.
Love it. Do you journal with a pen, traditional journal, or do you use digital?
Traditional pen. There is something about pen to paper that allows me, and this is probably only me, and that's fine. But there's something about getting out of my head with a pen, because my brain functions so quickly when I'm writing with a pen, and I
Yeah.
can scribble stuff out. If I'm on my computer typing away, there's too much coming through my head at once. I
Mhm.
can't keep up with my fingers, and then as soon as I misspell a word, then my brain stops and goes back to try to correct the word. I need to just be able to flow. My journals are a disaster in the most beautiful way possible. And
Yeah.
I don't care if it's misspelled. I don't care if there's scribbles. I don't care about any of that, because I want to be able to process information as quick as possible.
Yeah.
And I just need to get it out. That's
Yeah.
how I dealt with anxiety. That's how I've dealt with depression. That's how I've gotten over drinking all the time. That's how I've gotten over a lot of this stuff, is just being able to pour my heart out and then be able to move on. And there's a lot of therapy in that. And I don't want to bore you with the science behind that, but pen to paper, that's the short answer.
That's how you do it. Now you mentioned, I mean, you just mentioned anxiety, depression, stuff like that. I know that's a big thing nowadays. Mental health, especially with everything that's been going on in the world. What was how is that something you deal with often, or do you have any tips, tricks that helps you get through that?
Uh, yes, I deal with it all the time.
Mhm.
I have a ton of tips and tricks trying to figure out. The very first thing that I would say is journaling.
Yeah.
Journaling is the number one thing when someone comes to me. Journaling is the first thing that I give them.
Yeah.
Breathing and meditation is the second thing that I give them. Working on their self-talk is the third thing that I give them. So journaling, meditation, and breathing, and then self-talk.
Yeah. That's good advice. The self talk now, is that something that you had as you started developing, when you started losing weight? Did you start to, I guess, dive into the books, just like the normal progression of most people when they start to get better? They're like looking for food for their mind, and then you started getting into books. Is that kind of how that went?
So I got into books first. So I graduated college. I was probably the dumbest person to graduate college. I mean, I finished and I hadn't even finished a book the entire 7 years that I was
Wow.
in college. And so I graduated with a degree in psychology, started selling cars December of 2008, like right
Hmm.
after the stock market crashed. Best
Hmm.
time in the world to start sales, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I went 90 days, hadn't sold anything. I went to my boss. I was like, "Do you have a book, like anything that can help me do this?" He tossed me a book and I read it cover to cover, 8 hours. And that, like, my world was changed. First book I'd ever finished in my life. Guy was, literally, it was like the guy told my life story. He was just 20 years in front of me. And I was
Yeah.
like, this is it. So I actually put, 4 or 5 years of hardcore personal development in
Uh-huh.
before I stepped on the scale at 400 pounds. And I can guarantee you, if I wouldn't have done that pre work that day that I said, I'm done, I've had it, I would have
Mm.
never been able to do what I did, because I needed that several years of personal development to become the person that could just say, I'm done, I've had it, this is where I'm going.
Yeah, that's a good point, because most people, they kind of live in it. Once they get there, they kind of live in it, and they don't have that foundation to just say, you know what, that's it. Or they do say, yeah, okay, that's it, but they don't have the foundation to put a plan together, and so that it's kind of this never-ending cycle. Not everybody, of course, but man, that's interesting. Self-improvement books have done a lot for a lot of people. So now, what are some of the key lessons that you learned on your journey? You dropped the weight. You're executive coach. You've done the 100-mile events. Are there any phrases, one, two phrases that you use to keep yourself on track? Because I like to say that, the track is not always straight. We get off track all the time, and the key is to get back on track as fast as possible. Wherever you're going, get back on track as fast as possible. Is there anything that you use like that to remind yourself or remind your students, hey, we all mess up, but hey, this is the deal. Keep this in mind.
Yes, a ton. um, Trying to narrow it down to something I can do in 20 seconds or less. I
We
will.
have we have a couple minutes. We got about 3 minutes left.
Awesome. So I will, because. So every single month I have a word of the month, and then of course I have the word of the year. But I have a character or personality trait that I work on every single month. And my
Mm,
philosophy behind this is, if I can improve one piece of me every single month, that's 12 a year, that's 60 in 5 years, that's 120 in 10 years. And I can guarantee you, every 5 years, you will become a different person in the most positive way, if you're conscious about this. So assertive is my word of the month. And actually, I've been working on it for several months because I sucked at it that much for the first 90 days. But I am assertive. I will make my dreams come true, because right now I'm at 90%. I'm ready to just take that next level and level up. So I need that
mhm,
reminder. I'm assertive,
mhm,
and I will be successful because I have earned this opportunity that I've created for all of these years. And so every single day, today's when I write in my journal, I write the date, I write where I am. Today is the first day of the rest of my life. I
mhm.
am assertive. I will become successful because I've earned this opportunity over the last several years with all the hard work that I've taken. And I will repeat that. I will repeat that more than most people will repeat their name in a day or a week or a month. And I will ingrain that in my head. in one way, shape, or form so that I don't ever forget that. I'll also give that to my clients. They'll obviously make it theirs with whatever they're working on. But it's that forced repetition. It's that muscle. It's that convincing ourselves, because if you can't convince yourself, you're never going to convince anybody else. And
Sure.
so instead of trying to convince other people, I'll go ahead and convince myself and then let my actions take care of the rest.
Man, I love that. I love that so much. I've never heard that, and I'm gonna take it
Yeah,
and
do
I'm
it.
gonna use it. So and I'm gonna tell everybody Gary taught me. Like
I
Gary
love it.
shared this with me. So I like that a lot. Gary, we got about a minute left here. Tell people where they can get involved with what you got going on, man.
Yeah, probably best place is GaryStotler.com. You can hit me up there, give you information. If you want Success is Spelled Action, you can find that on Amazon. There's ways through my website. You can follow me through Instagram if you want to, Coach Gary Stotler. I'm not on social media as much anymore as I used to be, but yeah, hit me up if I could do anything for you. You can click on a 20-minute call on my website. Be happy to, and I will travel the country and I will come see you in person and have coffee. So I ain't scared, and I can't stop moving. So I'll come to you.
Well, I think I believe you. I think everybody listening believes you too. Nobody doubts your ability to keep it moving forward. So, Gary, man, I appreciate you being here on the show. It's been an honor to have you as a guest, and I wish you the best of luck. And anything I can do to help you, I'll be willing to help. So, thanks a lot.
I appreciate you having me. Have a great day.
All right, you too, man. Hey, one last thing before you go, leave a comment. Which example did you most align with from today's show? I'm curious. I want to know. Also, if there's somebody that you want to find out what's made them nervous, leave their name in the comment. I'll try to get them on the show. Follow me on social media at Jake Bolig. Follow the show at Go Find Nervous. And if you don't mind, subscribe. It helps me out with the whole algorithm thing. I appreciate it. I'll see you next time. Go Find Nervous.